felt like people hear what you're saying, but yet they just don't understand or get you? Or maybe you've had this situation where you're kind of avoiding people because they just seem to get under your skin for some reason. Or maybe, like me, you've had a situation where it's an argument or disagreement, you lose sleep over it, and you stress out over it way too long, and then end up finding out at the back end that it was just a simple miscommunication. Well, my name is Charlene Douthat, and I have some information I'm going to share with you that I think might be very interesting and also very helpful for you in both your personal and professional life. I know this is going to come as a huge shock. However, not everyone is like you. Oh, darn it. It would be so much easier if it was the case, right? But unfortunately, it comes as no surprise that people who can get along well with others are going to go farther in life. It's that simple. But knowing that not everyone is like you, that's where it gets tricky. So I'm going to share with you today the fact that there are 4 different personality types. And once you figure out what your type is, you are better able to understand what are the other 3 that you're not, and then how do you adjust your style and adapt based on that person. And so I'm going to share with you what the 4 types are, and then we're going to dive deep into a couple on this video. The 4 types, I like to call them the CEO, a social butterfly, a golden retriever, and a tax auditor. Sounds like the setup to a funny joke, right? But honestly, sometimes it's not so funny when you're dealing with people and different personality types on a team or in a work environment, or maybe you're married to somebody who you just like are at odds with a lot of times, or your kids, or maybe other friends or family. So hopefully this information is going to help you to understand your style, and then you can better get along with others. So let's start with the CEO. These are my favorite types because they're very, very decisive. I love calling on them as prospects because they can always make a decision. They can sometimes be very tough though. They're that driver personality. They're very strong-willed. They can be very direct. If you have a lot of, if you're very sensitive, they can sometimes offend you. They don't mean to, but they just get to the heart of it. They're very competitive, can be very demanding if you're working underneath one of them. They come off as very independent, which can kind of seem a little self-centered sometimes, but you'll notice when they're competing, it's things like, it's not a team sports, it's things like a triathlon, or maybe it's golf where they're having to like perform better than themselves ongoing. So they push themselves really hard. Under pressure, they might come off that they have a lack of concern. Believe it or not, their biggest fear is loss of control. And when they're in a situation of, something's changing in their life, they look at it and they say things like, hey, things are not going to progress if we don't change. So they just take it head on and they're very action oriented. The other thing to know about the CEO type is they're usually not data junkies. They just want to bottom line it. So if you're going to call on them from a sales perspective, give them an executive summary that's going to work best. And don't be offended when they flip to the last page. Just bottom line it for me. What's the price and what is this going to do for me? And again, like I said, I love dealing with them because they can make a decision. Doesn't mean it's always going to be the right one, but they are capable of making that choice. So that might think of that and think, is that you or is that somebody that you know? So the next style is the social butterfly. And this is your person who is like the chatty Cathy. They're very sociable. They're easy to get along with. They're friends with everyone. They come off as being very energetic and positive. Sometimes that positivity, they think that the outcome is going to be great. So they have a tendency to sometimes overpromise, but underdeliver. But they genuinely thought that it was capable and they could get it all done, and so it was coming from a true place. But they just overestimate it. The other thing is sometimes under pressure, these folks will come off as being very disorganized. Their biggest fear, social rejection. They want everyone to like them and they want everyone to have a great time. They just want everyone to get along. When they look at something that's going to change in their life, they'll say things like, hey, great, that's going to be fun, because they just look as an opportunity and something new and different. And so they like diversity and things like that. And so those are the 2 styles that I wanted to share with you today. And if you want to learn more about the other 2 styles, watch the second part of this video. That's coming up next. And then if you want to even learn more, we're having a workshop next Wednesday on August the 16th. We'd love to have you join us. And the title of the workshop is called I'd love my job if it weren't for the people. Kind of a funny story, right? But it is going to be a really fun workshop. It's going to include an hour of networking and with other business professionals and a catered lunch. And you get to do a personality assessment that's going to tell you exactly your personality style. And we're going to talk about all four of them. We're going to dive deep and talk about how do you recognize them and how do you interact with others. So hope you'll join us. Stay tuned for part 2.